Let's be interrupters. Interrupters of lies, interrupters of silence, interrupters of isolation. Because exploitation grows quietly in the places where people aren't paying attention. I'm Shari Evans with Project Light, and this month we're talking about what it means to become interrupters. People and communities who step in and interrupt the cycle of human trafficking and exploitation. Today we're talking about one of the most powerful tools that traffickers use to keep that cycle going: lies. Trafficking and exploitation don't just rely on force. They rely on deception. Lies shape how people see themselves, and lies distort reality. Lies keep people stuck in situations they believe they can't escape. So, if you want to interrupt the cycle of exploitation, we have to start by interrupting the lies that allow it to continue. So what are some of the lies that keep the cycle going? Probably the most common myth is that it doesn't happen here. Well, the reality is, traffickers don't choose locations, they choose vulnerabilities. Exploitation happens where vulnerability exists. Small towns, suburbs, rural areas, and cities all experience exploitation. Traffickers aren't looking for a specific city. They're looking for people who feel unseen, unsupported, and disconnected. This lie keeps communities from really paying attention. And here's another myth. Oh, you can always tell who's being trafficked, but the reality is most victims don't look like what people expect. They may go to school, have a job, appear to be in a relationship, or even live at home. Exploitation is often hidden behind normal-looking situations. Another myth is that trafficking always starts with kidnapping. But the reality is, kidnapping is very rare. Most trafficking begins with grooming, manipulation, emotional dependence, and promises of opportunity or love. Traffickers build trust before they build control. Another lie that we need to address is that it's a choice. The reality is many victims were first targeted when they were vulnerable. Most people who are exploited didn't wake up one day and decide to enter that situation. Coercion, manipulation, fear, trauma bonding, and financial pressure often removes real freedom. They're groomed, they're manipulated, and they're pressured through emotional, financial, or relational control. Understanding that truth helps communities respond with awareness and compassion instead of judgment. Many people think that only girls are victims. The reality is both men and women, boys and girls, can be exploited. Males, though, are often less likely to be identified or reported because of the stigma and the shame that's attached. And then what about this? Good families don't have to worry about this. But the reality is, traffickers are skilled at finding emotional gaps, not just broken homes. They're looking for teens who feel lonely, misunderstood, insecure, curious about independence. They can still be targeted. This lie often keeps parents from having important conversations with their kids. Another lie: technology isn't that big of a risk. Well, here's the reality. Online spaces are the primary recruiting tool that traffickers use today. They use it to build relationships, to groom, to isolate, to manipulate, all without ever meeting someone in person at first. And finally, the lie that someone else will handle it. Well, here's the reality. Prevention doesn't belong to just one group. It doesn't belong to just teachers or parents or businesses or churches, law enforcement or community groups. Everyone has a role in interrupting the cycle. Prevention doesn't require extraordinary people. It requires aware communities. It requires teachers noticing changes in behavior, parents having honest conversations, businesses training their staff, churches creating safe environments. When people pay attention and work together, the cycle begins to break. Awareness and community are powerful interrupters. Traffickers don't just rely on silence and isolation. They rely on lies. Lies that convince communities this problem is far away, that victims choose it, or that there's nothing we can do. Lies keep the cycle going, but truth has the power to interrupt it. So if you remember anything from today, remember these three things. First, exploitation isn't just a distant problem. It happens in communities just like ours. Second, what looks like choice is often manipulation and vulnerability. And third, every community has the power to interrupt the cycle when people begin to notice and act. Exploitation thrives in lies, silence, and isolation. But when people begin to notice, speak up, and work together, the cycle can be interrupted. Thanks for joining me today, and remember, awareness is the first step, but it's action that interrupts.